ना
कनेक्टिंग आ रहा
कनेक्टिंग
था
कर रहा
तो
है बे। हाँ गुड टू।
गुड टू गो।
हेलो हेलो गाइस, सबको टेबल से उठा के यहाँ पे ला लिया हमने। सब एक
मिडवे
बार
कन्वर्सेशन
गुड
पे।
मॉर्निंग या हाय लिख दो सो दैट आई नो कितने लोग एक्चुअली हैं इधर। यस। सो एक और बार अपने अपने ग्रुप्स पे डाल दो कि सेशन हो गया है स्टार्ट ऑफिशियली। जल्दी
11
आना है तो
11
आ जाओ। डालता गुड गगनदीप गुड। मीनवाइल आई विल कीप थिंग्स रेडी ओवर हियर।
सौरभ किसी को रिकॉर्ड करने बोल रहे हैं।
चालू है रिकॉर्डिंग।
ये एडमिट को ईमेल करना पड़ता है राइट।
हाँ बट दे देंगे ना नील, है ना?
हाँ मैंने सपोर्ट को फिर से पूछा था, वो बोला कब का भेज दें, पर मुझे मेल नहीं
अच्छा एनीवेज स्टार्ट करूँ कि शुड आई वेट? नहीं ना,
आया। कर दे स्टार्ट, तो बाद में
ठीक है।
फिर
तो अगर कोई नहीं है इधर, लोगों को बुलाने गए तो वापस आ जाओ। आई एम स्टार्टिंग। तो आई शेयर माई स्क्रीन, डिस्कॉर्ड भी बंद कर देता हूँ और बिफोर दैट शेयर स्क्रीन। दिख रहा है? ओके। सो स्टार्ट करने से पहले कल डिस्कॉर्ड के अनाउंसमेंट चैनल पे हमने ये फाइल भेजी थी। अगर किसी ने इसको डाउनलोड नहीं किया हुआ है ये जिप फाइल को, सो प्लीज़ गो टू द सर्वर एंड डाउनलोड द जिप फाइल पहले से, बिकॉज इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट। ओके। एंड वी एस कोड एंड उसके एक्सटेंशंस होपफुली सबने कर लिए हैं डाउनलोड। मैंने चैट पे अभी लिस्ट भेजी थी। सो नाउ दैट इट्स आउट ऑफ द वे वी कैन बिगिन। सो आज हम एच टी एम एल सी एस एस कवर करने वाले हैं, राइट? सो to understand what HTML and CSS is, we are going to take an analogy with a house. Analogy मतलब a comparison. So तुम्हारे घर में imagine you are pretty rich, okay? You have a bungalow. So you'll have multiple rooms, multiple floors, and room का layout, the furnitures, door कहाँ पे है, window कहाँ पे है, and stuff. So that's your structure of the house, right? कि सब कुछ कहाँ पे है और कैसे है. And for the styling of your house you will have wall का color क्या है, कौन सा wallpaper लगाया है, curtains का color, and so on and so forth. So that's the styling of your house, all the interior design. And finally ये house तुमको क्या क्या functionality provide कर रहा है, like it gives you a place to sleep, it gives you a place to eat, it gives you shelter, so on. So everything के तीन चीज़ें होती है, right? Structure, styling and functionality. So similarly for let me change the color. Oopsie, 1 second. Yeah, okay. So for a web page you will have HTML, which is the structure of your web page, and you have the CSS, which is the styling, and JavaScript, which gives all the functionality. So HTML is hypertext markup language. CSS is cascading style sheets. The important one word here is style sheets, and JS is JavaScript. So आज के session में we are not going to cover JS. Maybe in the future we'll take it because it's a pretty big topic and one of the most important things in web development. So, but HTML and CSS, these two are the topics we're going to cover today. So now that this is out of the way, I also want to talk to you guys about the basic structure of an HTML document. So we'll go from top to bottom. Okay. I'll go slow so that everyone understands. If you do not understand, then please let me know on the chat. So the first statement in all of your HTML documents needs to be this doc type HTML declaration. And what this does is it gives the information to the browser. Okay. And this thing is not an HTML tag. It is not a tag. It's a HTML element, and you can call it a declaration, but it's not an HTML tag. And below that is so what kind of information does it give? It's just telling that this file जो भी ये है, it's an HTML file. So all of the code, all of the text that's written below this needs to be considered and processed as an HTML file. Okay. So now the HTML tags. So all the tags in your HTML document will be inside angular brackets, and most of them have a set of opening and closing tags. So for opening tags, there is just the angular thing with the tag keyword over here. And for the closing one, there's a / in the beginning. So this is the opening tag for the HTML, and this is the closing tag for the HTML. You can imagine this as a curly brackets opening over here and a curly brackets closing over here. Okay, so HTML tag is the root element of your web page, and it acts as a container for all of the code inside, and everything except the doc type HTML declaration will be inside the HTML tags. Okay, so this is an overall container for everything. And next we have the heading tags. So heading tag के अंदर जो भी तुम लिखोगे ना, it gives the browser information about the web page itself कि are there any specifications जो इस web page को use करने का है, and in technical terms we call it metadata. So heading tag में mostly you provide metadata for the browser, and metadata is nothing but data of data. So your HTML file, this entire file is a data. It's a file, right? And इस file के बारे में information, that would be data of data. So that's metadata. तो यहाँ पे there are various things, right? So there is also something known as the meta tag. And meta tag में there are various types. Like you can specify author, you can specify the description, and all of this information will be used by your search engine. So whenever you search for a website on Google, जो भी results तुमको आते हैं ना कि website का नाम उसके नीचे some description and all, that's all taken from these meta tags. So you can choose what info you want to be displayed on the search engine using the meta tags. So heading tag is basically for providing information to the browser about this web page. And body tag is going to contain all the visible elements. So everything that's going to be visible on your web page, like text, images, anything, it's going to be inside the body tag. Okay, so I hope you're clear with the structure. I'll quickly go to the chat and see if you guys are clear. Chat पे लिख दो guys if you are facing any issues.
Question taken.
हाँ. Okay, what's a tag? So in programming languages now, you would have come across keywords, the term keywords. So it's nothing, it just carries a special meaning for the browser. So whenever a browser comes across this angular brackets में HTML, it knows that okay, this is something in the HTML language, and this is not user से खुद का enter किया हुआ something. So it will see कि अच्छा यहाँ पे open हो रहा है तो close कहाँ पे हो रहा है. So depending on whatever tag it is going to carry out the necessary functions. Okay, I'm going to proceed next. So, okay, now for our first session today, we'll open Visual Studio Code over here. And we're going to design a very simple HTML index page for a novel. So, for example, our final product would be this. We're going to design a page with a heading of the book and the author and contents, and we'll provide some links to the chapters over here. This is what will be our end product minus this copyright thing because that's not needed. So what we're going to do is we're going to open Visual Studio Code, and over here where you see open folder, you're going to click on that. Now I'm on my desktop and I'm going to just create a new folder over here and call it, let's say, HTML part one, no, or just HTML. And I'll go inside this HTML folder. I'll select the folder. So VS Code will open the HTML folder as my workspace. So whatever documents I have, whatever files I have will be inside this HTML folder right now. So I'll open a poll if you guys have finished until now. If you have created your folders, if you have finished naming it, if you have finished opening it, please say yes. Okay, so I think it's good to go. Yeah. Okay, so now we have the HTML folder, our workspace, and inside that we are going to create right click new file, or you can hover up over here and you can see this new file thing button. You click on that and you type the name index.html. Now we name it index because it's convention, but honestly we can name it anything. I'm going to go ahead and rename it to Peter Pan. It can be anything, but I'm going to go with the convention, call it index.html because it's the main HTML file for our project. And over here, so we saw earlier that the first statement of any of our HTML document needs to be the doc type declaration. So I'll come over here, I'll select doc type, and VS Code is pretty friendly and it gives me the suggestion already. So I can just press enter and it will type out this thing for me. Then I'll go to the next line, and the next thing we had in our structure was the HTML tags. So we'll go HTML, and as soon as I close this tag, VS Code will automatically type out the closing tag for me as well. So in practice, what you're going to do is type HTML, close the tag, press enter. So you have an opening and closing set over here. And then we have the heading tag. Now we are going to give a title of our web page. Okay, so we'll come over here and we'll use the title tag. The title of our web page is going to be Peter Pan, and I'm going to press Ctrl S to save. And if you have the live server extension installed, you're going to right click on index.html over here, and you will see this option called Open with Live Server. This will only appear if you have the live server extension. So I'll click over here. And what this does is it removes the need of opening the document again and again and then clicking refresh to see your changes. So as soon as I save my document over here, you're going to see the updated changes on the left. I'll just put this on the left and this on the right. Okay. So now we did type a title over here, but there is nothing, there is white. And why is that? Because title is not a visible element. It's in the heading tag, and if you see over here, the top of our tab, we can see the title we have put, Peter Pan. So the title is for the browser tabs. And if we come and scroll down, and next we are going to use the body tag. Now we'll start with the visible elements. So in the final example, the final product, we need Peter Pan, and it's a pretty big text. Now, if I simply type Peter Pan over here, Peter Pan, and if I see it, it's the text size is pretty small, and we can indeed change the text size once we start CSS. But right now, I want this to be big without using CSS. So for that, I'm going to use the heading tags. So the heading tags go from H1 to H6. So for H1, I'm just going to type hello world over here. I'll copy it 6 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to have to change it. And H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. So if I save it right now, you can see the H1 is the biggest tag, and H2, H3, all the way down to H6, which is the smallest size. So these are heading tags, and H1 is the biggest font size, H6 is the smallest one, and we need the biggest one, so I'll remove everything else. And instead of hello world, I'm going to type my title, which is Peter Pan. So there's our Peter Pan over here. Are we clear up until now? Okay. Okay. So the next thing we need is this subtitle. So for the subtitle, I'm going to choose a slightly smaller heading tag, maybe an H2, I guess. Yeah, H2 should be fine. And I'll type Peter and Wendy. Same thing, okay? We are not using any new concepts, just using a smaller heading tag. So this is Peter and Wendy over here. Next, we have the name of the author. So we'll come over here. We will use the H2 tag again, H2, and it's by JM Mary, which is James Matthew. If we save it right now, we see the name of the author over here as well. And okay, so if you look at the final product over here, you'll notice that there is some space above and below this name of the author. So how can we provide that space? So without using CSS, the simplest solution would be to use the line break tag. So this is the line break tag. Okay, and using this, if we save it right now, you can see that there is a empty line over here, and it has pushed this down a little. So this breaks the line and goes to the next one. And the next thing we have is horizontal line over here, and we can put that using the horizontal rule tag. So this is the horizontal rule tag. So all this is going to do is put down a line going all across the screen. It takes from the left to your right the complete length. And okay, so we are done till here. And if you notice, then in the final product, this is centered. So even we can center this, and we can go ahead and maybe use the center tag. I'll cut the closing tag from here and I'll put the closing tag here. So everything between the center tags is going to be centered. But if you see, it did work, right? It did center my thing. It's now all centered aligned. But this is coming out as red, and that's because the center tag is deprecated. Deprecated means that it's no longer supported by the latest version of the HTML, HTML5, and there is a better way to do this as of now. So center tag should no longer be used ideally. That's what deprecated means. And the newer way to center our text would be to use CSS. So for now, I'm going to delete this center tag, and everything is going to be left aligned, and I'll leave it at that. We won't focus on the center aligning for now. So now that we're done with this part, we can go to the contents section. But before that, if you see the title, the Peter Pan, it's italicized. How can we italicize our text? So there's actually two ways of italicizing. The first one, so we want our Peter Pan to be italicized, right? And in HTML, as you have seen until now, there's an opening and closing tag for most of the things. And for example, in here in the heading tag, there's an opening heading tag and there's a closing heading tag. And whatever is between these two tags, the properties will be applied to that thing. So Peter Pan was between the two tags, so it is now H1 size. Similarly, if I want to italicize this, I'm going to use the italicize tag in the starting before Peter Pan and end it after Peter Pan. So we have an italicized Peter Pan, which is of the size H1. And if I save, you can see it's italicized. But The other and the correct way to do it would be to using the emphasis tags. And I saved it over here and there is no change over here. It's still the same. And that's because both are going to give you the same output, but the difference lies in the semantics. Semantics like the meaning it gives to the browser. And we discussed in the very beginning that HTML is for giving information and meaning to your web page and structure to your web page. So all the I tag is going to do is stylize your text. It's not going to give any meaning at all. And but on the other hand, using emphasis tag is going to give a meaning to this Peter Pan thing. So if you're using text to speech or something like that, which is going to like read it out aloud. So whenever it's going to encounter this Peter Pan thing, the text to speech voice is going to put some emphasis on this word. So that's only going to happen with the emphasis tags. If you use the italicized tags, it's not going to happen. And similarly, like the exact same thing, we have the bold tags and the strong tags. So you can also use the B tag to bold your text, but the correct way to do it would be to use strong. Okay. So I'm deleting this out.
Saurabh,
And we are done with the top section. Now we'll come here to the index. And in the index, we need 3 chapters. So I'll just for now put it over here and type it out quickly. So yeah, below the HR,
Saurabh, am I not audible to you?
it's H3. I'll take H3 and type contents. Maybe also put this inside the emphasis tags as well. So an H3 sized emphasized contents. If we minimize this, we can see contents over here. And below that, we can see that there is a list of chapters. And there is no specific list in this case. It's just the one text after the other. But to teach you guys the concept of lists in HTML, I'm going to use something known as an ordered list and unordered list. So the way you do that is first there are 2 tags. Okay, first one is the ordered list tags, the OL ordered list, and the next is the unordered list. So let's see what ordered list is first. So inside the ordered list, if I type list item, so LI is list item, and each line over here, like chapter 1 Peter breaks through, that's one list item. So one row. So one row here would be chapter 1 Peter breaks through, which I will also put in the em. It allows me to em tag. So we have a list item, which is the emphasized text of this. And if I close this right now, you can see the output. It's an ordered list. Okay, so in ordered list, and if I just copy and paste it twice, it's automatically adding this 1, 2, and 3. So that's what the concept of ordered list is. It's going to give you a ordered list, and you can change this 1, 2, 3 by using something known as the tag attributes. So attributes are nothing but properties of that tag, and you can type it like just before the closing brackets. For ordered list, there is a type attribute. So type is equal to A. Now, how do I know that there are these types? So one of the most helpful things for a developer are the docs. So I'm just going to go ordered list, MDN. Now, MDN is the web docs of Mozilla. They are going to give you everything regarding the ordered list and what kinds of things you can do with it. And if I just scroll down over here, I can see there's a attribute list for this ordered list tag. And I can say that it's can be a reversed ordered list, so it will go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or I can provide a starting point. So rather than starting from 1, I can maybe start it from 4. So it will directly start from 4. And what we have used over here is the type attribute. So you can see A is for lowercase letters, capital A is for uppercase letters, I is for lowercase numeric, Roman numerals, and so on. So if we have used small a, which is for lowercase letters, and I save it right now, you can see it has turned into ABC. Now if I use I, you can see these are lowercase Roman numerals. So these are ordered lists, and unordered lists do not have any types or any attributes. They simply present everything as bullet points. So you can see over here, I changed the OL to UL, so unordered list, and it's just giving me all of these points as bullet points. So I think this is what we need for now, because if we use ordered list, it's going to go one chapter one, two chapter two, and that doesn't look good. So I'll just quickly fill this up. So chapter two is wait a second. Is something wrong?
Saurabh, you cannot hear us.
Oh, sorry. It's the same
Yes.
thing. Like if I minimize the window, then I'm not possible to hear you guys.
Some time ago, I asked if they're following करके. So yeah, this is the scene. And two, एक काम कर तो phone on रख. Okay. So if
Hmm.
there's something I want to inform you, I'll inform you via a call.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly cover up whatever we have done until now. Okay. So on my screen, you can see the doc type heading tag, which gives the information to the browser that every code below this is the HTML code. And the heading tag, inside the heading tag, we are giving the title tag. So title needs to be opened and then it needs to be closed using the / symbol. Okay. And we are giving the title of Peter Pan. And this title will appear over here, like at the top of the web page, right over here. It won't be visible inside your blank space. It would be over here. This is the title. And the next thing we have is the body tags. So opening body, closing body. The first thing we have used is the heading tag. Yes, okay. So we have the heading tags. The H1 tag, as I explained, is the largest font size for the heading tag. And we have used the emphasis tag for italicizing our text. So a heading tag, which is italicized, is what this statement means. So if you check the output, it's a heading tag with H1 size and it is italicized.
Saurabh, can we take a break for 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes?
No,
So
I'll
people will
finish
ask.
explaining whatever I've done. So after that, if they have any doubts, they can ask. Okay, so then they have the H2 tag. Similar concept. We have another piece of text over here. We are giving it the font size of H2, and it's slightly smaller than the Peter Pan text, so it's H2 tag. Next, we have used the line break tag, and line break is going to add a space. So after Peter and Wendy, it added a line break over here. So it's simply just BR. And again, we have the name of the author in H2. And after this, we have the horizontal rule tag. Now, horizontal rule tag is going to give a line right across the screen. It is the HR tag, horizontal rule tag. Okay, are we clear up until this point?
Can you check the questions real quick?
Yes. Does the HR tag represent that the tag begins and ends at the same place? No. HR is horizontal rule. It's just a horizontal line, nothing else, nothing more. It's just the horizontal line. The line you see on your screen over here, horizontal rule, that's it, the horizontal line. Okay. The closing, okay. So this is my code formatter. Actually, whenever I auto format it, it's automatically entering this closing tag over here. Even without this, if you run it like this, it's not going to change anything. But in most libraries like React and stuff, they require you to close the tag over here. So It's fine if you don't close it. Okay. So like the BR tag can be just this much, the HR tag can be just this much. Okay, so the difference between I and EM tags. So as I explained, both of them is going to give you the same output. They are going to both italicize your text. But in the very beginning, I told you guys that HTML is a structuring language and it is not for styling your text. It is only for giving a structure to your language or your web page. So what the I tag does, that it only italicizes your text, only applies the style, nothing else. And the EM tag, on the other hand, gives emphasis to whatever is between the opening and closing tags. So I also explained where it could be useful. So if I use a text to speech over here, then as soon as the text to speech API reaches this line, it's going to read this title with some emphasis, like Peter Pan or something like that. If instead we would have used the I tag, it would just be Peter Pan. Okay, no emphasis at all. So the EM tags are going to give some emphasis to the text rather than just giving the style. And okay, yeah, जो भी तुम्हारा HTML file है, if you want, you can, if you're using Visual Studio Code and you quickly want to go to this file, you can just right click, reveal in File Explorer. So if I click on this, then it will take me to the folder in which this is there. And if I double click this, it will open it over here. The only difference is that every time you save your file in VS Code, you will have to click refresh over here to see the changes. Okay, no other difference. It's going to work the same.
Saurabh, could you please send whatever code you've written over there on the chat so that like the people who are not able to follow can copy paste it?
Yeah, okay. So chapter 3 is come away, come away, come away, come away. So I'll send this code on the chat over here. So if you weren't able to catch up with me, so what I'm going to do today is that I'm going to send you guys these codes in between. And if you have been listening to me, it's better if you listen to me rather than focusing on typing the things out. And if you feel that you can type it out at the same time while listening to me, then that's fine. But if you feel that this concept is a little difficult for you, then it's better if you just pay attention to me. And I'll be sending out the code in between. And so you can always catch up to where I am at that point. So I'll paste my code over here. And you can just copy this and, oh no, there's a word limit. What to do? I can create a Google Docs in that link. So I'll share this. It's taking too long. Okay, so you can keep this link open in a tab. So I'll be pasting all the code in this Google Docs. I hope it's the complete link and nothing got cut out from it. Yeah. So keep this Google Docs ka tab open, and whenever I tell you guys ki abhi I'm going to paste over there, you can just go and catch up with me. Okay. So after the horizontal rule, what we did was we used the unordered list. Unordered list is nothing but using bullet points for our list items. List items are nothing but the individual rows. Okay. So row 1 is chapter 1, Peter breaks through. Row 2 is chapter 2. Wait, I did not write it. It's the shadow. Chapter 2, the shadow. Whatever. Okay. So I hope we are clear up until this point. If there's still anything you haven't understood, please let me know. Yeah, I see 100%, and I'm going to consider that everyone is understanding. Okay. Now, the all that's left in our web page is to add some hyperlinks to these pages. So before adding links, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file over here, which I'll call as chapter1.html. And all this file is going to have is just a heading tag that says chapter 1. So again, doc type declaration, and we come down to HTML tag, the heading tag, which has the title of chapter 1, and the body tag, which has h1, which says chapter 1, Peter breakthrough. Okay, are you guys clear with what we just did? We just created a new file, chapter1.html, and all this code is going to do is that it's going to display a heading of chapter 1, Peter breakthrough, and a title on the tab which says chapter 1. Are we clear? You can type anything. It's like I'm just trying to clone whatever is in this image. So you can just type your name or whatever. Okay. So now what we want is that whenever we click on this text which says chapter 1, so whenever we click on this thing, it should open a new web page. And the new web page which you want it to be opened is this chapter1.html. And in HTML, the way we do that is by using the anchor tags. Now, anchor tags are just A. So an opening anchor tag and a closing anchor tag. And whatever text we have in between these anchor tags. So let's say I type hyperlink. Now, we haven't done anything else. It's just hyperlink text in between these two anchor tags. Now, if I just check my documents right now, you see that there is no difference. It's just appearing as a normal text. And that's because we haven't specified any location. कि इसको click करके where are we supposed to go? And that we can specify by using the href keyword attribute. So href attribute will give the location of whatever is to be opened. So if I just type maybe https google.com over here, and if I see this, now it's appearing in blue like a proper link. If I click on this, it's going to open google.com. Okay, so these are anchor tags. Now this, what we did was opening a website in the anchor tag, but what we want is to open a file that's already on our system. So for that, we are going to specify the location of the file inside this quotes. And our chapter 1 is in the same folder as index.html. So what we can do is simply type chapter1.html because it's in the same folder. Okay. Otherwise, you can also put a // before it. Now, what is this dot? So it's very important to know how path works. So dot is nothing but the current directory. And in our case, the current directory is the directory in which we have index.html. And if we look over here, index.html is inside this folder called HTML. So dot over here would be the HTML folder. So inside the HTML folder / chapter1.html. So inside the HTML folder, chapter1.html, this is what it means. So when we go ahead with CSS and creating the portfolio, this dot thing would be pretty important. So Now, if I save this and if I come over here and if I click on this hyperlink, it's going to open chapter 1 Peter Breaks Through. But we do not want it to be on this hyperlink text. We want it to be on this chapter 1 index entry. So we'll simply do the same thing over here. The opening anchor tag, chapter 1, and end it over here. And inside this anchor tag, we'll provide the href of / chapter1.html and delete this. So we have an unordered list. Unordered list has a list item. The list item is emphasized, which means italicized link, an italicized link, which is going to take us to the chapter1.html file. Now, if we reload over here and we see that it's now a link. So we click on this and it will take us to the page. So are we clear? Okay, briefing the hyperlink. It's simple. It's just the anchor tags. So closing, opening anchor tag and closing anchor tag. Whatever is in between these two texts, it would be the text of the link. And we can provide the location inside this href tag. So if we have Facebook and if we go to https://facebook.com, so we will see a link with the text Facebook, and upon clicking that text, it will take us to this link. Okay, so over here, if we come and see, back to the main page, reload, we have a link Facebook. Upon clicking that, it's going to open facebook.com. Okay, I'll start another poll. Are we clear? Because we have finished cloning this. We have finished cloning, except the center part, which it's not possible or ideal to do with HTML anymore. We have cloned this thing completely. So the final product is this, removing the Facebook tag over here. I'll just copy this entire thing, paste it in the Google Docs. So you can keep this with you. Okay, this is the final product. Yeah. How to center the text. So I did say that if you technically want to center this, like kuch bhi ho jaye center chahiye mere ko, you can, like, so all of this is inside the body tag, right? This entire part is this thing. So we want all of this to be centered. Maybe no, we want it to be centered up until this author. So we'll take it up until this author, and we can put these around an opening center tag that opens over here, and a closing center tag that closes right after the name of the author. Now, if I save over here, you can see that it is centered. In full screen, it is centered. But as I said, the center tag is no longer supported by HTML5, so it's appearing in red. The way to center this would be to use CSS, and in CSS there are various properties that you can use to center your text. Okay. Okay. So this is what the basic HTML was about, and now we'll go ahead and design our own portfolio using HTML and CSS. So for this, I want you guys to take this zip file which you downloaded from Discord. I hope you have. And if you want it on a desktop or whatever, you can just right click it, click on extract here, and it's going to extract this folder called HTML CSS. Now in Visual Studio Code, I'll go ahead, file, new, or I can just go file, open folder. So I want to open the folder of HTML CSS which I just extracted. So I'll click on this and I'll select the folder. Okay, so it's going to open this folder for me. So let me know once you guys have finished opening that. Okay.
Saurabh, can you show them the portfolio they will be making?
Yeah, 1 second. Where did it go? I lost the photo, I guess. Okay, and never mind. Um, so the zip file, जिस भी directory में तुमको चाहिए ना, you can keep it in your D drive, you can keep it on your desktop, wherever. So just take your zip file in that directory and you can extract it over there. Just right click on the zip file, click on extract here. Or if you are in your downloads folder and you want to extract it somewhere else, you can just open the zip file and click on extract to, and wherever you want to extract it, you can just extract it. Okay, just click on desktop and click on OK and it will extract that. I finished setting up the project. Yeah, the both the files, the index.html file and the CSS file, they are completely empty. So if you see over here, empty and empty. So we provided this file basically for these two images. So the background for our portfolio and the placeholder image for our profile picture. Now, I hope we are clear. Just someone with a no. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'll take a small 5 minutes break. People can just finish setting everything up, and meanwhile, if there are any questions, I'll answer that. And I will also drink some water. You can post your questions in the question section.
Could you also show them the portfolios which they'll be making?
हाँ नहीं, about that I cannot
Only
find it. I had the image, I guess I accidentally deleted it. Never mind, it's okay. You need the images folder as well as the two files over there. I mean, you could also technically make them by yourself, but the images are important, yes. Questions. How important is it to learn web development? Is it basic requirement for all programmers? So it depends on what you term as web development, because HTML, CSS is like the very basic of the basic of web development. We have JavaScript after this, which is a pretty huge topic and pretty important as well. And we also have libraries and frameworks like React Native. React Native is for mobile apps. So we have React, Angular JS, and stuff like that. So to actually be identified as someone who is knowledgeable in web development, you need to know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, as well as a library. So React and Angular are two of the most famous. There's also Vue, Vue. Vue is also one library. So if you learn all these four things, then maybe you can get a chance in your interviews to do something. How is this HTML web page further posted on the internet? So right now, all we are doing is we are opening the file from our computer, right? And if we want it to be public so that people can type in some address on the website and access it, then we'll have to host the website. And website hosting is, again, a completely new topic, and we won't go into it, but yes, it is possible. You can buy your own domain or you can go for free hosting services, which lets you do it. But it is possible, yes. Okay, so I'll just check the poll again. I mean, yeah, it's gone, but considering everyone has finished setting up, we have 1 hour left. So we'll start with the CSS. So for CSS, as I said, what we're going to do is we are going to design our own portfolio. So inside this index.html file, I'll again start with the basic boilerplate code. So I've used this term boilerplate code, and boilerplate code is nothing but the general structure we have been using all along, something which is like set in stone that you have to use the structure. So we have doc type HTML, we have the HTML tags, the heading tag, and the body tag. So this is our boilerplate code. Now, we'll first start with the structuring of our index.html and open with live server as I did in the earlier session. Otherwise, you can just right click, reveal in file explorer. It will take you to the file in your file explorer. You can double click it, it will open in Chrome. Okay. So I'll just close this file stack for now. Okay. So the first thing we need to give a title for our web page, and I'm going to go to the heading section, give a title of my portfolio. And over here on the top, you can now see my portfolio. Inside the body section now, we are going to introduce a new HTML tag, and it's something really, really important in web development when you're designing things, and there's nothing as useful as this. So we have the div tag, div division, a section. So what div allows you to do is assign a specific style just to this div itself. So we can have multiple divs on our website for different things. Maybe this div is for an image and this div is for some text. So I can give some styling to this specific div, which will only apply to this image. And I can give some styling to this second div, which will only apply to this text. Okay. So it's very helpful when you're making a big web page like this one right now. This is not even big, this is just getting started. Anyways, so we have this div tag right now. I'll explain why I have used it right now a little bit later. So the first thing we need on our website is our profile picture. So our profile picture here is the placeholder.png, just the empty profile picture. I'm getting a call. Yeah.
Your video sharing is
Saurav, you stopped sharing your
Since when?
screen in the start. सब कुछ के पहले HTML लिखा फिर वो doc type लिखा उसके बाद से.
F indeed, F indeed. So whatever I explained until now, did it stop sharing again? No, no. Okay. So we have the doc type, we have the boilerplate code. Okay, from div, right? Okay. So as I said, we have the divs and we can have multiple divs on our website. And what this helps us to do is specify styles for each of these divs. So as I said, if we give a style to this div that it's supposed to have a background color of red, so it won't apply to all the divs, it will only apply to this div. And the way we specify that it should apply only to this div is what we do in CSS. So we'll explain that later. No, paragraph tag is for text. You can, div is just a section. It's just a section. It's nothing else. So you can just section out your website in different pieces, and one div is one piece. Okay, one slice of a pizza or something like that. So we have this div tag over here, and I'm going to use my placeholder.png for my profile picture. And the way I do that is by using the img, the image tag. Yes. So the image tag is used to display images on our web page. And the way we specify which image to use is by using the src attribute, the source of the image, the location of the image. So image src is equal to inside quotes, you give the location of your image. Again, similar to the anchor tag, we can give a link from the internet for the image, or we can give a path, a location of the image on our system. So we already have the placeholder.png in our document in our project. So we're going to import that. Can image also be used for GIF files? I'm not actually sure. I think yeah, you can. So we have the placeholder.png in the images. So I explained the dot operator earlier, right? So we want the placeholder.png, which is inside this images folder, which is inside the HTML CSS folder. So by using dot, this is a relative operation, right? So in relation to wherever this index.html file is currently. So currently our index.html file is inside this HTML and CSS folder. So the dot now targets the HTML CSS folder. So inside that, we want to go to images, and inside images, we want to go to placeholder.png. So looking at the complete link, the dot, which is the current working directory, the HTML CSS, the folder images inside of it, and the file placeholder.png, which is inside images. So by this, we are telling that you need to load up the image which is at this location. So now if we check the output, you can see there's the image tag over here. Are we clear? Okay, so the next thing we might need is some text. So I'll come over here, and maybe I need to put some text below this image. So I'll just take, now there are multiple ways to use text. Yeah, I'm looking at the chats. Thank you. So in previous, I have used the heading tags. I can also use the heading tags here, but as Ishan, or just I forgot who it was, also said, we can use the paragraph tags. Paragraph tags also we can use. So let's show with paragraph tags. So I say my name is in one paragraph tag. In the next paragraph tag, I say Saurabh Shukla. So if we run this right now, you'll see my name is, and the next one is Saurabh Shukla. And these are on different lines, not because I've written them on different lines in the code, but because of these paragraph tags. Now, paragraph tags are block elements, just like div. Div as well as paragraph tags, they are block elements. Now, there are three types of elements in HTML: an inline element, a block element, and an inline block element. Still visible? Okay, so who's not clear? Are there any doubts? Just a yes or no. Like, are you guys clear? Okay. Yeah, if at all you want me to repeat something, please do tell me, okay? Okay. Yes, and if you're fine with speaking, you can raise your hand, we'll bring you to the stage and you can speak. So I'm going to continue. So inline elements, they allow, so their pros are that they allow elements on the same line. So if we have multiple inline elements, they are all going to be displayed in the same line. And the disadvantage is that we cannot change the size of inline elements. And block elements, on the other hand, we can change the size, and it's not really a con, it's just the usage the way you want to use this. So we can change the size of block elements, but it does not allow elements on the same line. So as I just said, the paragraph tag is a block element. So because we used two paragraph tags over here, one for my name is and one for Saurabh Shukla, you saw that they appear in the different lines because this tag is taking the entire length of the screen and it won't allow any other element on the same line as it is. Okay, so those are block elements. Now, inline block is like the best of both worlds. So it will allow you to change the size and it will also allow things on the same line. Okay? So by default, your paragraph and your div tags are block elements. But using CSS later, we can change these properties. So we can change a block element to an inline element and so on and so forth. Are we clear with inline block and inline block elements? Okay, so I'll just delete this right now. But now I have used paragraph tag over here, right? Okay. I think there's a doubt. Who? बोलो बोलो जो भी है जल्दी बोलो. Don't stay quiet. Because if I don't know you have doubts, then I'll proceed and then we'll be lagging behind. Q&A section. Someone's raising their hand. Ah, okay. There's nothing in the Q&A section. That's why you're telling me to. Are you typing something or should I proceed? I don't know. Please let me know.
Harsh raised his hand. We allowed him the access. He came, but then left again, I guess.
You can leave your
Like-
question in the Q&A section. I will definitely answer it. But right now I'll proceed. Okay, so here I have used the paragraph tags for my text. But as you can see, the paragraph tag comes with its own stylings. And the styling here is the spaces like above and below it. So I did not enter any space myself, but there is some space added. So if I just remove these paragraph tags and instead use a div, because by using a div, I can specify my own styles for this. I can, the inline part, okay. So for example, if this had no text, or let me just copy this image tag and paste it over here again. So image tag is an inline tag. So as you can see, I pasted two image tags one after the other, but they all appeared in the same line. That's because the img tag is an inline tag. Okay. Okay. So yes, what I was saying is that rather than using predefined paragraph tags and all, what I'm going to do is use the div tag for my text. And I'm doing this because by using the div tag, I can give it my own style. I can specify, I want this much margin, I want this much font size, anything. That's possible with the paragraph tags also, but it's added overhead, I guess, to override what's the default values. So my name is inside one div and Saurabh Shukla inside the other one. So div, the same as paragraph tags, they are block elements, but different from paragraph tags, there is no space above and below these divs. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do is that we are going to start styling this part. Actually, before that, I'll also add one more div, which will show you my hobbies. So a div for hobbies, which is gamer, coder, reader. I like gaming, I like coding, I like reading. So again, it will come right below this. Now I want to start styling this part. This image is way too big. I don't like this font at all. There is no space. This is not centered. So the way we do the styling is by using the CSS files. So we are now finally entering CSS. But before entering CSS, I want to show you this box model. So I'll quickly copy this over here, open a whiteboard. Yeah, and paste it here. So the box model is very important to understand. So what it all says is that this will go from inside to outside, right? So let's say that we have a piece of text, just an S, and it is inside this box. Okay, so this S is inside the box and it is taking this much area. So the black box, so the area it is taking on the web page, the content itself is the one marked in blue. So the one marked in blue is this one. Okay, so this is the content it's covering. And next we have the padding. So the padding is the distance it is getting the inset. So let's say that we have a box. Let's say our element is just the S. All right. So this S is not sticking to the edges of the box. It's in the center. And the distance between the edges and this element is the padding. Okay. So green is the padding. And we can also give a border to our box. So we have a border going all around that box like this, and this border is going to have some width. It can be 0 pixels, it can also be 3 pixels, 8 pixels, or anything. In this example, the border is 8 pixels. So the yellow part is the border of our element, the border. And after the border, we have the margin. So the margin is nothing but the distance that it's separated with the other elements on the web page. So let's imagine we have a second element over here, and which similarly has another box over here. So this top element is separate from the bottom element by this distance plus this distance, right? So these are margins. So all like the distance from the other elements on the web page, that is the margin. Okay, so we have the border and we have the margin. Are we clear with the box model? Is there any part you did not understand? Okay, and the way you can check your box models for an element on your web page is by clicking on any element and right click on it and select inspect. So whenever you do inspect element, a window will open to your right or your left or a new window, depending on if you have used it before or not. And at the bottom here, you can see the box diagram, the same one which I showed you over here. So right now there is no styling applied to it. So this image is just taking 360 by 360, which is the size of the image. There is no padding to it, there is no border, and there is no margin. Okay. And this developer tools, the inspect element, is going to be really, really helpful when you see things ki ye kahan se aa gaya, humne to ye kiya nahi tha, and I applied to it, but why is it not showing up and stuff like that. So you can change that. Okay. Now that we are done with the box model, I'm going to start with the CSS file. So now we have a styles.css file over here. And the way we let our HTML file know that it needs to use this styles file is by importing the styles file inside the header tag. So by linking it, okay? So in this HTML file, we are going to link the CSS file. So this CSS file needs to be used inside this HTML file. And without linking, doesn't matter whatever rules of CSS you specify over here, nothing is going to be applied to this HTML file, because just going by the code of this HTML file, there is no mention of which CSS file to use. So the way we do that is the first line of our heading tag, we specify a link tag. Okay? The link tag takes two important attributes. The first one is the relation attribute. Rel is equal to inside quotes. Now, the relation specifies what kind of link this is. In our case, our relation is a style sheet. So this is a link for the style sheet. And link does not mean the hyperlink or a link, it's just a connection. So we are connecting HTML to CSS by using this link. So this link is for the style sheet, and which style sheet to use is specified with the href, like in the anchor tag. So we can go / and then styles.css. So we have to use this file, which is in / styles.css, and that file is supposed to be used as a style sheet for an HTML page. Are we clear?
Saurabh, let's take a pause and let's wait for everybody
I'll
to link
also
it.
send this much code. Where's the doc? Never mind. Okay, if there's any doubts, please ask ASAP. How to connect HTML to CSS, right? So as you can see over here, we already have an empty.css file. That's our CSS file, right? And if we want to let our HTML file know that it needs to use this file, we use the I'll send. So if we want to connect our HTML file to the CSS file, we are going to specify it inside the HTML file itself that it needs to use the file mentioned in this location. So we use the link tag inside the header tag. The location is very important. It needs to be inside the head tags. So link, the relation is style sheets. The file that we want to link is a style sheet file. CSS is cascade in style sheets, right? So the relation is a style sheet, and the location of that file which you want to link is specified by href. There's still 14% who do not understand. If you do not say what part you do not understand, then I cannot do anything. I'll proceed, I guess. So,
That was the previous poll.
acha, okay. So, now that we have linked our CSS file to the HTML file, we can start styling our page, okay? And we want to target specific elements, like the image should have this much width, the this div should have this font color. So how will our CSS file know कि किस element को target करके उसका rule change करना है? And we do that by using the concept of classes. And this class is not the same as your Java and C++ wala class. This is like just giving a nickname to this element. So I can call this element as photo. This image tag will be called photo. It has a class of photo. Okay, class is equal to inside quotes photo. And if I want to change the size of this image tag now, I can simply call it by its nickname in the CSS file and change the rules over there. So to target classes, we use the dot operator followed by the name of the class. So this just means that whatever is following this dot is a name of the class and not just some random text. So dot photo means dot photo and the curly braces. So whatever properties we give inside this curly braces would be applied to this photo class. And when the web page is loaded, it will check, okay, so this image has a class of photo. And in the CSS file, it's saying that the photo class should have this and this properties. So let's apply this to this image tag as well. That's what's going to happen, okay? So image class is equal to photo. We are giving a photo class. And to target that photo class, we are going to use the dot photo selector. Now, I want to set up a width for our photo. I'll give it a width of 120 pixels, I guess. I don't know. 120 pixels would be too small, maybe. But I guess good enough. 120 pixels. And I'll also give it a height of 120 pixels. So a perfectly square photo. And if I check the output over here, the size has reduced a lot. It's now a 120 by 120. If I check the image thing over here, and if I check the box model, in the box model it says 120 by 120 because that's the space the image is taking up. And profile pictures usually are circles. You don't see a square profile picture anytime. So the way we do that is by using the border radius property. So border radius, all it's going to do is change the curvature of the corners. So if I give it 30 pixels, you can see the output over here. The corners have curved a little bit. And the more I raise this value, 40 pixels, 50 pixels, the more it gets curved. And to guarantee a exact circle, you can always give 100%. In effect, it has curved all of the corners so much that the final product has now essentially become a circle. Okay, are we clear? Okay, so I'll just assume. Okay, so now we have the border color, a border radius, and maybe I also want an actual border around this image. So I can set a border to this image, and it can be 3 pixels in width, motapa of the border. It can have a solid color. A solid means there is no gradient, there is no opaqueness or transparency. It's a solid color. A solid color of black. And if I save it right now, you can see that the border is around this image. So a 3 pixel mota border of a solid black color. Okay, we are done styling the image now. We'll proceed with styling this text. Now, similarly, if we want to style this divs, we are going to give these divs some classes. I'm going to give this first div a class of greeting. Second div will have a class of name. And the third div will have a class of hobbies. And whatever we are giving inside these double quotes, they are something which we are providing by ourselves. There is no rule कि तुझे यही देना है. I just felt like naming it greeting, so I named it greeting. Okay, now we have classes assigned to each and every one of these. So I can go ahead and target the greeting class. And if you see here, this is sticking way too close to this photo tag. So I'm going to give it a property of margin top. So at the top of this element, I want a margin of 20 pixels, a margin of 20 pixels. So you can see it has moved down. There's now a 20 pixel margin in between. And similarly, let's say I also want to change the style of my name class. The name class is nothing but the div which contains this text. So for that, I'm going to change the font size. I want my name to be the biggest text on my web page. So I'll target the font size property and I'll give it a font size of 3 rems. Now, what is a rem? You'll ask. So two important things is a rem. We have seen two things right now, right? A rem and a pixel. So a rem is nothing but so one rem would be equal to the default font size of your browser. So by default, if you haven't changed the settings, your default font size would always be around 16 pixels. So I have not changed the settings myself. So for me, one rem would be 16 pixels. And the reason we use rems here and not pixels is because people we need to accept the fact that people have preferences and they keep different font sizes for their browsers. And if we give a solid hard and fast 20 pixel length and if we change the font size, then that will remain as 20 pixels while all of the text around it will scale with the default size. So it would look really, really bad. So it's good practice to keep your text with the rem thing. Okay, so I've given it 3 rems. So 3 rems is nothing but 3 times the default font size. So that would be 16 into 3, 48. Okay, so 48 pixels. Never mind, 48 pixels. Yeah.
Saurabh, could you share up until now?
Yeah. So we have finished assigning the style for the photo, the greeting, and the name. And I'll copy this and paste it in the Word document again. As well as the CSS on the next page. Okay. You can go there and copy paste it inside your files. Yeah, it's really amazing. You can, if you look at the final product, you will be amazed. It's going to be so cool. Just focus and hang around. And if you're not understanding anything, then please let me know. Okay, so we have finished with the name class. So the photo class is styled, the greeting class is styled, and the name is styled. We also want to style our hobbies class. So again, we target the hobbies class with the dot operator, and we give the rules inside the curly braces. So for the hobbies, now this is a fact about styling your websites. Like the smallest things can make the biggest differences on what feel your website has. So right now I feel that all of these letters are sticking way too close to each other, like G, A, M, they are just like very close to each other. And for my hobbies, I want them to be slightly separated. So we have a property which is called as letter spacing. Letter spacing, we can set it to, for this one, I'll set it to 3 pixels. So between each letter, there's a space of 3 pixels. And this space is not an actual space character, but the letter spacing. So there are still only 5 characters in this word, but the characters are now slightly separated from each other. Okay, now I have added letter spacing and this too is sticking too close to this. So I will add a margin top, 10 pixels this time, maybe good enough, I guess. Now, maybe I also want a rule between my name and between the hobbies. So in the HTML, right after my name, I'm going to put the horizontal rule tag again. And if I see here, it's going all across the screen. I do not want it to be that way. I want it to be just a small percentage of the screen commit. So for that, I will go to the styles.css and I will come here and before that, I need to give a class to this, right? So I will give this horizontal rule a class of rule. This is what I thought. You can name it anything. You can name it ABC, but the general convention should be that the name of the classes should be easily identifiable. So I will target the rule class, and I want the width of the horizontal rule to be 40% of the web page. So the width would be 40% of the web page, right? Now, if I see the output, you can see now that the width is only this much. It's starting here and it's ending over here. So that's 40% of this entire screen width. Okay, are we clear? Okay, nice. Okay, now I also feel that this name thing is sticking too close, like upper or niche. So I'm going to give it a margin top of 20 pixels and a margin bottom of 20 pixels. So it added 20 pixels of space above and below it. Now, this is pretty tedious, like having to type margin top, then margin bottom, then margin left, margin right. But CSS actually provides you with a couple of shorthand ways to define your margin. And I'm just typing in some comments over here. So the first um, the shorthand way would be just the margin tag, and then we will go clockwise from top. So the top margin, then the margin on the right, then the bottom margin, and finally the margin on the left. Okay. So as an example, in our case, it would be 20 pixels on the top, 0 pixels on the right. And please note that wherever you use 0, 0 should not have a unit after it. 0 is just 0. It should not be pixels, it should not be rems, it's 0. 20 pixels on top, 0 on right, 20 pixels on bottom, 0 on left. If I just copy paste this over here and check the output, it's still the same. Nothing has changed. That's because this works the same as the thing we had before. The second shorthand way would be top, bottom, and left, right. So in our case, it would be margin on the top and bottom should be 20 pixels, and on the left and right should be 0 pixels. So this seems much shorter, right? So, and this is what we want. So we'll copy this, paste it over here, and again, no changes to the output. Okay, are we clear with this shorthand? What if I want the HR to be from the left to like slightly beyond the center? So now if you go and I put this full screen, inspect, and I target this HR tag. Now, yeah, so again, HR is also what do you call it? Block element. And here, if you see, by default, it's getting some CSS styling by the browser. So margin block at the start should be 0.5 rem, and at the end should be 0.5 rem, and auto. So like it's a slightly advanced concept, but basically what it means is that using the default styling of the browser, this HR is always going to be in the center. So to do that, what we can do is we can change the left margin of this HR to be 0. So then there won't be any margin on the left and it will stick to the left. Is that clear? So you can always override the default properties. So even though your browser is giving some of its own properties, it does not mean that these cannot be changed. Like right now it has a display block, but if in my CSS file, I target this HR and I type display is equal to inline, then it will ignore this default styling and it will choose the one which we have specified instead. Okay. So in the same way, it gives some margin over here, but we can change that margin ourselves. Hope it's clear. Others? I'll start a new question here. Okay, sounds good. Now, yeah. Now, these fonts, they are the fonts provided by default by the browser, and they are ugly, very ugly. I do not like this. So, how are we going to specify our own fonts? Now, this is a fun topic. So, I'd request all of you to just focus on what I'm showing right now and do not try to do it side by side because it might take some understanding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a website called fonts.google.com. So Google provides us a list of a lot of fonts which we can choose from. And in the categories section, you're going to see various categories of fonts. And I'm going to just explain to you what serif and sans serif is. So if I just select a serif font and we come over here, I'm going to zoom in. So if you look very closely, then let's say the L of almost. On the top, you can see that there is a slight edge that's coming out of this L. And similarly, at the base of this A, there is this line, right? So these things that are extras that give some different style to your letter and that sticks out of the letter, those are called serifs. And fonts that utilize the concept of serif, they come under the serif category. And sans is nothing but, I guess, Latin for without. Sans is without. So sans serif is without serif. So sans serif fonts, on the other hand, are going to be all sleek and plain and beautiful. So it all depends on what kind of theme you're going for with your website. And in my case, I want a serif font, a sans serif font, and I already have one in mind. So I'll just search Lato. It will display the Lato font for me. And I'll select this Lato font. And then it will show me various strengths of this font. So it has a strength from 100 to all the way to 900. 900 being the most bold and 100 being the thinnest. And in between there is a regular 400 font, and this is what I'm going to use. So I want this regular 400 font. I'm going to select this style, and there are two options now. We can either download this font as a zip file, and it will give us the font files, the .rtf, .ttf and whatever, and we can include those files inside our project, but that would take a lot of time. And an easier way to do is to embed the font, and already gives the instructions on how to do it. To embed a font, copy the code into the head of your HTML. So it gives us this another link, and we'll just copy it, and it says to paste it inside your head of the HTML. So I'm going to do what it says. Going to come below the CSS file and just paste what I just copied. So we have one link for the style sheet and one link for the font. Okay. And it now says that to use this font, you need to use this property inside your CSS files. So just like we were saying, border is 3 pixels or something. There is another rule, which is font family. So our font family is Lato and sans serif. So I'll come over here, and I want my font to be visible throughout my website, not just to a specific div. I mean, you could have different fonts for each different div, but right now I want it to be applied throughout my website. So a very simple way to do is to target my body tag, because everything I want is inside my body tag. So rather than giving my body tag a class, I'm going to directly target the body HTML tag, and note that body is not a class, it's a tag. So we do not use the dot operator, we just type body. Body without the dot, because body is not a class, it's an HTML tag. Okay. And we copied this from here, we're going to paste it over here. Okay. Now, if we go over here and look at our text, it has the beautiful font that we want. For the changes, I'll quickly remove this, save it, and you can see it has a default serif font. But if I paste the rule and then save my file, then the font has now changed. So how to do the same for the div is the same. So I have a div called greeting. So rather than doing it for the entire body, I'm just going to take this and put it only inside the greeting class. So with this, the font will only be applied to my name is, and the rest of the text will go with the default font. It's the same, okay? And if we want different fonts, then we can select different fonts and give different font families to the different classes. Okay. Again, I'll start a new poll. I'm going to paste this code so you can directly copy it. I'll just change the font family from here to here. Copy, change the HTML code, copy, change this CSS code. Okay. Now, our background is pretty lame right now. Or actually, before doing the background, I want this to be center aligned. So for center aligning your text, there's a very useful property or concept called the flexbox. Now, flexbox, to understand flexbox, before starting with that, I'm just going to give a class to this wrapping div. I'm going to give it a class of a wrapper because it's wrapping things. So I'll give it a class of wrapper. And to this wrapper class, because I want everything inside this wrapper class to be center aligned, both horizontally and vertically. So whatever changes I'm going to make in the CSS should be to this wrapper class. So in the CSS, I'll come over here. I'll start typing rules for the wrapper class. And the thing they're going to use is the display property of this div. So this div should use the display of a flex box. So the display should be a flex. Now, the flex box takes three important properties, and the first one is the flex direction. So flex direction is nothing but the general flow of our content. So if we do not specify any flex direction, it's by default going to take the direction as a row. So you can see things are messed up, and that's because our direction is a column. It should be arranged in a column, right? So inside flex direction, I'm going to write column. And back to normal. Okay. And after this, the two main things is the justify content property and the align items property. What flex direction does, it gives the main axis for your flex. So right now, our main axis is the column, or in the 2D plane, you can say the y-axis. The y-axis is our main axis. So justify content will specify where the contents are to be laid out inside the main axis. Layout in main axis, and align items will specify where should the contents be laid out in the cross axis. Now, cross axis is the opposite of main axis. So if our main axis is a column, then our cross axis would be a row. So layout and cross axis. Okay. And to show you what different types of properties we have, now in this diagram though, their main axis is a row. This is for justify content. So if your main axis is a row, then using the flex start right after the justify content would arrange everything on the left. Using flex end would arrange everything on the right, and center will center it in between, and so on and so forth. So right now our main axis is a column. Okay, our main axis is a column. So if I give it a justify content of flex start, then it will arrange everything to the start of the column. So that's the top. And similarly for flex end, it will arrange everything to the bottom. But we want things to be centered. So I'll go to my justify content and I'll type justify content center. Okay. So I'll just remove these bits over here. So remember that justify content is for your main axis alignment and align items is for your cross axis alignment. So if I check my output right now, did I save it? Okay, so you will see that it did not really work. And why is that? Like there is still some space below us. So the reason for that, we can inspect element. And if we check our wrapper div, it's only taking this much space. And it's taking this much space because the children are only taking that much space. So a div element only takes as much space as its children. Okay, are we clear with that? So for our web page right now, the size of the web page is not the entire screen, but only this blue highlighted area. But we want it to cover the entire screen. So the way we do that is by changing the height of the web page, but we'll do that after a short break. So any doubts? Now, flex is a slightly complicated topic, so I won't expect you guys to instantly understand it completely, but I hope whatever I explained, at least that much was clear with you guys. Okay, so now if we check our website, then we want our body is only taking this much space because there's only a div inside our body, and that div is only taking this much space. So the body too will take this much space. We want the body to cover the entire screen. So again, we'll go to the CSS file, we'll go inside the body and we'll say that, hey, body element, you need to take up 100% of the screen space available. And the unit for that would be VH. VH is nothing but your viewport height. And viewport is nothing but the blank canvas or the display, like wherever it can display. So in our case, the display is this complete white area, excluding the navigation bar on the top, excluding the taskbar on the bottom. Just the white area is our viewport.
Saurabh, could you come to meet once?
Can you center the image placeholder and name as an example? Okay, no, I will get to that. So right now, all I've done is that I've centered the content, all of our content vertically, but that's not getting applied because for now, the screen size is not um, covering the whole screen. So it's not visible to us that it's getting centered. So to see the effect, we need to first tell the body to take up the complete screen space. So by doing this, you can see that the body is now taking the entire screen space, like the blue highlight. Okay.
अभी तक जितना हुआ है डॉक पे डाल देना प्लीज.
Okay. Uh, So what I'm going to do is, rather than applying the, what do you say, the 100 VH to the body, because even though the body is taking the 100% space, the div will only take as much space as its children. But I want to center it. So I want this div to take up the whole screen as well. So rather than putting in the body, I'll put it inside the wrapper div. So as soon as I do that, you can see that this div is now covering the entire screen, and I have set the main axis alignment to center as well as the cross axis alignment to center. So that's like right middle of our screen. Now I'll share this code. You can put your doubts. Did I copy the CSS? Yeah. And the HTML code. I know it's getting a little too much, but this is like not a lecture, it's a seminar or a webinar. So I just want to introduce to the various things that's possible with CSS. It's fine if you do not understand all the things that are taught, but you need to have an idea of what's possible, what's the power of CSS, and what you can do. And so I'll go with that philosophy and I'll continue. Yeah, it's just a crash course. You do not need to understand everything instantly. Okay. So just by itself, right now it's looking pretty aesthetic. This might be enough, but I want a background image because it's looking pretty blank right now. So I can simply assign a background image to my wrapper class. And the way we do it is by setting a property called the background image. Background image which uses a URL. Now this URL again can be a link from the internet or a part on your computer. So inside quotes, I'm going to use this background.png or background.jpg, which is inside images, which is inside HTML CSS. So again, following what we have done earlier, dot slash will take us to the HTML CSS folder. Images will take us inside the images folder, and then inside images we need the background.jpg. Now if we save it, it's going to apply to the background, but this is not pretty at all, because if we look at the background.jpg file, there's some trees, there's some sunset, and it's a much bigger image than what's being showed over here, and that's because the image is getting zoomed in, and we want the image to cover the screen completely without reducing in size. So for that, we have a property called background size. And background size takes the value of cover here. So what cover will do is that it's saying that, okay, so this div has a background image and it needs to completely cover this div. So the image needs to fit inside this div completely without cropping out anything. Okay, so as we can see, it has completely fit inside this wrapper div. And now our black text and the black border is barely legible. So we'll go ahead and change the font colors. Now we can also just do, now to change the font color, we use the color property, set it to white. And for the name also, we can go set the color to white, but it's like tedious to do this. So all I'm going to do is go to this wrapper again, set the color to white, because we have everything inside the wrapper. So if I set the font color for wrapper to white, then the font color for everything will be set to white as well. Okay, so now our font is white. We also need to set,
सेंटर कुछ लोगों का नहीं हुआ, बैकग्राउंड भी कुछ लोग नहीं अप्लाई कर पाए, तो तू एक बार वो पूछ सकता है?
Okay, so things to note when you are centering. In the wrapper, you need to specify the height as 100 VH so that it takes up the full screen ka height. Otherwise, you won't see the effect. You set the height to 100 VH. You set the display to flex. The flex direction should be column and main axis alignment center, cross axis alignment center. These points, okay? Please check if these are what you have written.
एक बार बैकग्राउंड वाला पार्ट भी 20% पीपल होल चेक कर लो.
Technically, we can stop right after we finish this, but there's also one more thing. If you guys want, I can show you guys, but otherwise, if you guys want to leave after a 5-10 minutes, you can. Okay, so anyways, proceeding with this now, there's, as you can see, there's some white margins on all the sides over here. We do not want these margins, and we did not define these margins anywhere. So where is it coming from? So we can again inspect. So our first thoughts would be maybe the wrapper div is the culprit. We scroll down and we see that no, wrapper does not have any margin. So after that, we have a parent, the body. And if we see here, then yes, the body is the one that's giving the margin to this web page. And we can easily set it to 0 by coming here, going to body, setting the margin to 0. Now it's completely covering the entire screen. Okay. Now, there's one final element we can put on our web page, which is the links. Like every portfolio should have some links to your social media or your GitHub account. So what I'm going to do is in the HTML, I'm going to come below this hobbies wala thing. I'm going to make another div with a class of navigation. Why is it called navigation? I'm just calling it because I want to. And I'm going to use a new HTML tag called the nav tag. And nav tag is nothing but it's used when you have a collection of links like very close to each other. So it's not used for all the links on your web page. It's only supposed to be used for links that are right next to each other. So in our case, we want a navigation bar, and in a navigation bar, there are links right beside each other. So our first link would be for GitHub. The second link would be for Facebook. The third link would be for Instagram. And the fourth link would be for LinkedIn. And right now it's getting displayed right below here, and it's not getting displayed as a link because we have not specified a location. So for anchor tag, it needs a href attribute. And for now, we do not want this link to take us anywhere. So we'll just leave it with a hash sign. Hash signs means that it's going to not take us anywhere, even if we click on it. Now you can also leave it blank, but that's like not ideal. It's not the conventions, it's not ideal as well. So the preferred way is to leave a pound or a hash symbol. So I'm going to do that for all of these. Now if I reload this, you can see the links are over here. And they're purple because I've already opened these links. But we want to change the color first. So now we have told you that to target a CSS class, you need the dot operator. But what if we want to target the anchor tags which are inside this nav tag? So for that, I will give it a class. Okay, I will call the div as a nav wrapper, and I will call the nav as navigation class. So to target the anchor tags which are inside the navigation class, so only these. So I don't want to change the styles of any other links I have on my page, but only the ones that are inside this navigation class. The way we do that is by specifying dot navigation space A. So the anchor tag which is inside the navigation class. Anchor is a tag, anchor is not a class, so there is no dot before it. The space is important. Okay, so if I come here, change the color to white, and change my colors. Are we clear? Okay, you want to add logos and stuff, then you can use image tags for the logo. You can reduce the size of the image and make it circular, or you can style it according to you. You can use image tags for the logos, and below the logos you can have text which says GitHub or whatever. And to the image tag also you can put the anchor tag. So if your anchor tag, if you have an anchor tag and inside the anchor tag you have an image, so upon clicking this image you will be taken to wherever this anchor tag specifies. Okay, so yeah, we have changed the font color, but we also want to remove these underlines that are coming by default. So the easiest way to do it is by targeting the text decoration property. So the text decoration to these anchor tags should be none. Remove all the default styling. So it has removed the, what do you call it, the underlines. Okay, are we clear here? Now, if I want this navigation bar to have a background, I'm going to select the nav wrapper class, give it a background color of teal, but teal is slightly too light, so I'll go here. I'll hover over the word teal, it will bring up the color picker. I can just select the shade of the color I want, slightly darker. Okay, seems good. I have this thing, but I want this to take the complete width of the screen. So I'll just come here. I'll set the width to 100% of the viewport width. So just like we had VH, we also have VW. Upon doing this, you can see that it has a viewport width. And we want all of our links to be centered. So again, we'll apply the display flex. Our flex direction would be a row, and the main axis alignment, which is the justify content, would be center. Now it's centered. Okay. These links are sticking way too close to each other, so what I'm going to do is provide some padding to each of these links. They have 25 pixels of padding, and now they are separate from each other. Okay. Also, maybe rather than specifying the flex for the nav wrapper, which is the div, I can specify the flex for the nav tag, which is the immediate parent of these anchor tags. So I'll just cut these flex wala thing out from the nav wrapper, put it inside the navigation class. Yep. Okay. And this will help it to style it better, because now the immediate children are the anchor tags and the styles are getting applied to them. But the second final thing we are going to do today is change the position of this navigation bar. So usually it's either at the top or the bottom. The way we do this is we want this entire thing, the nav wrapper with the background color and everything, to be at the top or the bottom. And in general, if you see, so first we had the image, so our output was first image. Then we had the greeting, so the next output was the greeting. So HTML follows the general flow of your HTML file. But if we want to pick something out of the flow of HTML, we can give it a property of in the nav wrapper. a display, a position absolute. So it's an absolute position. It's not related to the elements around it. It's not going to consider the general flow of the website. It's in its absolute position. And if we want it at the top, then we can say top 0. So distance from the top is 0. We have it at the top. And if we want it at the bottom, then the distance from the bottom is 0. Okay. Now, the final thing for today, yes. So normally buttons on the website, like login and sign up buttons, when you hover over them, you can see that they're highlighted, like very slight color change for each of these. And in CSS, we can achieve that effect. So again, we will target each of the anchor tags and give a colon hover. So whatever is inside these curly braces will only be applied if we hover over these elements. So I'm just going to take this background color, paste it over here, and make it slightly lighter. Okay. So upon hovering over the anchor tags, this background color should be applied to the tag. So if I come over here and I hover, you can see only when I hover, the color changes. And as soon as I move away, it goes back to normal. So with this, we are done with our website. Okay. And then, like, of course, we have given the pound symbols if we give https://facebook.com. And then we click on this Facebook button, it will take us to Facebook. Yeah. Indeed it is. So I'll just paste all of this code in the Google Docs again. I copied the HTML. And we have the CSS. Okay. Questions. Will the web page we created work and look similarly in the portrait variation if I open it in my phone? We can actually check it out if we minimize this window over here, reduce the width and increase the height. Then you can see this is how it's going to be displayed on a phone. And this is yet another aspect to web development. This is what we call responsiveness of a website. So responsiveness is nothing but how your website reacts to different devices and different screen sizes. I did add the final code just now. Yes, it's done. Okay. Yeah. Any doubts? Harsh Rane is raising his hand. Neil, can you give him access? Hello, Harsh. And he's gone again. Okay, so I know it was a lot of content for the day one. How it went to particular extension when you clicked add GitHub, it went to GitHub. Okay, so anchor tags, this is how it works now. So href will give the location of wherever it should take you. So if I give https github.com, normally in your portfolio, you need to give a link to your own profile, but right now I'm giving it to github.com. And if I click over here on GitHub, it will take me to github.com. Just specify the location inside the href tag. Okay, we had very less attendees today, but that's fine. जिसने भी attend किया, hopefully you took something out of this session. Doesn't have to be completely. Yes, thank you.
Saurabh,
Okay.
can you announce Alpha Coders?
Huh?
Can you announce your Alpha
Yes.
Coders
Yes.
challenge?
So in our introduction with you guys, we also mentioned that we are going to give you weekly tasks, and there will be a thing called Alpha Coder of the Week or bi-weekly thing. We haven't decided yet. But your task for this week, okay, please listen carefully. Your task for this week would be to design your own portfolio. You can use concepts which I taught you today, or you can do your own research to apply your own styles. Nobody uses HTML nowadays. No, that's wrong. HTML is not something that can or cannot be used. Every website has to have an HTML structure. Without a structure, you cannot have design. Like it's like how may you are putting something. That's not possible, right? CSS is not the one that's displaying things on your website. HTML is the one that's displaying things, and CSS is just used for styling those things that's getting displayed according to your preferences. Okay. Yes, yeah, exactly. Skeleton. HTML is the skeleton, and CSS is the flesh. JavaScript will be the brain. Wix is a website hosting service. They just go with templates, just like blogger.com and WordPress. It's all drag and drop. Exactly. And behind the scenes, they are also using HTML. It's just that they are hiding all that HTML from you, and they're just giving you a graphical user interface to align everything. Okay, so yes, I was saying your task for this week is to create your own portfolio using whatever knowledge you have learned in today's session. If you want, you can, of course, use the internet to clear your doubts or gain more knowledge. And after you finish making your website, you would be required to create your own repository on GitHub and push this website to that repository. So that would be using yesterday's concepts. Yes, yes, definitely we'll be putting it, but I'm just telling it to you guys right now. So step one, yes, yes, definitely. So step one would be creating your portfolio. Step two would be pushing it to your own repository on GitHub. And optional step three, you can host it on GitHub pages. We'll give you a tutorial on that in text or videos if you want, but step one and two are important. Ishan, it ideally should be something new. Like you can go with the general structure, but try to use your own backgrounds, your own fonts, your own sizes, your own links. Okay?
Though as creative as possible. Like someone asked Noki if I want to give icons for GitHub and all those things. So yeah,
Yeah.
that also you guys can do.
You can Google key how to make clickable images or how to give icon links in HTML and CSS. So you'll get like a plethora of answers.
And अगर उसमें भी नहीं हो रहा तुम लोग से मतलब if you're not able to do it then obviously Saurabh is there to to sort it out. Discord पे पूछ लेना.
And again, same as yesterday, I'll be sending out a feedback form. कल भी सिर्फ 17 लोगों ने भरा. It's not nice because we need to show the attendance to our departments and the vice chancellor. So please do fill the forms out, okay? We have to submit this by which day? Before the maybe Thursday or Friday. Yeah, Thursday or Friday.
Saurabh, what I was thinking is we'll give them a weekend, no? Like
Okay, so
Sunday
we
को submit
have
करने
Figma
बोल देंगे.
session on Saturday. So Sunday, okay, Sunday. Next Sunday would be your deadline. And yes, yes, next Sunday. And out of all the submissions, we'll pick out the best one, and that person would be the alpha coder of the week. And we'll put your info on our social media pages. So publicity.
Follow us on social media, guys. Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. तीनों पे हैं because Facebook is not needed at all. And udhar pe stories mein we'll be posting the top 10 ones which we find, and then alpha coder of the week will be the one who we think is the best in this thing. So yeah.
Yes, definitely. But that's only if people follow our social media pages. You guys don't follow the pages yet. Go and follow it.
मतलब आज ही पहला पोस्ट डाला जाके लाइक कर दो.
Huh. Okay, so we'll end the session here. We'll go to the lounge if you guys want to hang around and talk about some things. Otherwise, you are free to leave and carry on with your weekend. Yes, Abby, thank you so much.
Guys, ask your friends also to follow, and then
Form will forward on the Discord server. कल का form is also on the Discord server, general channel पे. Chalo. No problem. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something, and hope you guys spread some positive feedback around.
and yes, अगर कोई doubts है तो you guys can wait in the lobby and like go to table number 1 if you have doubts, and बाकी सारे tables for this discussion and talking.
Chalo. See you guys. Bye bye.
Bye.